Welcome to the Embracing Neurodiversity podcast, where I share my journey of embracing the experience of my amazing son who is on the spectrum. I am Ivory, a mother, educator, and personal growth enthusiast. My goal is to offer insight and stories that may inspire you on your own parenting journey. Thank you for tuning in. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. Per usual, this is the Embracing Neurodiversity podcast and part 5 of the State of Special Education series. I am your host, Ivory, and today's episode is called Reimagining Education at Home and in Community. I'll be honest with you all, this is my favorite topic to talk about for a myriad of reasons. As someone who is a product of public education, a former teacher in public education, a former assistant principal, and now I provide leadership coaching and consulting for public schools across the country. I can say with clarity and confidence that education starts at home first. I tell parents this all the time. You should never depend on the school solely for your child's education, regardless if they are neurodiverse or neurotypical. Education always starts at home. Every child that I've worked with, those who excelled and did well at school were the ones whose parents rooted education at home first. It never fails. It always starts at home. And so, today we're going to talk about ways that you can enhance the experience of your child at home and in your local community. In past episodes, we've talked about policy shifts, parent advocacy, and who's at risk for being left behind. And so today I'm actually excited that we are going to be able to shift the lens to vision. I am a solutions oriented person. I am a actions oriented person. While it is essential and important to highlight and discuss the barriers, the problems, the concerns, I also like to expound energy into thinking about solutions and taking our power back and creating solutions for ourselves as well. And so I wonder what happens when we stop waiting for systems to catch up or to improve and we actually start to build what our children need right now. And so in this episode, I want every parent who's ever felt let down by the system to leave having listened to this episode feeling creative and inspired. We're going to explore some alternative and supplemental education models like microschools and learning pods and some community-driven approaches. And then we'll also talk about how to build a neurodiverse-friendly home learning environment. And lastly, I want to also discuss how you can stay grounded as a parent and as an advocate. I wrote in my Transformative Parent Playbook that your home is your child's first and most enduring classroom. Never forget that. And you can reflect that at home without transforming your home into an actual school. When you're in the kitchen cooking, integrate your child into that process. Show them what mixing and measuring looks like, what different food ingredients require, what types of food you use, what are the names of the food, how do you spell them, the color, the smell, the texture. These are all learning tools that you can incorporate and bring your child into the process. It is actually the most powerful way to learn, right? So let's imagine that together. I want us to start with our why. For many parents, especially those raising neurodiverse children, the traditional school system doesn't always work. It feels rigid, it's certainly underfunded, and often uninformed on how our kids learn best. Some schools do it better than others, which also creates an inequitable experience for our children. Add the possibility of federal protections being weakened, and more families are asking, how can we create something more impactful and aligned to our children's needs? Across the country, parents are actually reimagining education, what education looked like. It started during the pandemic. So you've seen it starting right at their kitchen tables, in the community centers, and in libraries. It is possible. The good news is that you don't need a perfect system. You just need a clear vision and a willingness to try something different. I want to highlight some things that are working. Micro schools are popping up everywhere. These are small community based learning spaces that prioritize individualized education and flexibility. They're often led by a parent, a tutor, or an educator, and they cater to a small group of learners. This is incredibly ideal for neurodiverse kids. There are also learning paths that exist. They emerged during the pandemic, and they've stayed strong. These are small groups of families who come together to co-educate their children. Sometimes they will bring in a facilitator, and sometimes they are rotating teaching responsibilities to balance the load. If you have a group of like minded parents who are interested in this model, start that. And then lastly, there are tons of community based programs like enrichment co ops, library programs, and sensory play groups, play cafes, um, that always offer supplemental learning, right? I'm on an advisory board for a play cafe that will provide both a respite for families and parents and a learning space for young people in the Kansas City area. These things are needed for parents now more than ever. And what these models have in common is freedom, the freedom to build curriculum around your child's interest, the freedom to take sensory breaks, and the freedom to make learning joyful. That is key on this journey. Learning should be a lifestyle and it should be enjoyable as much as possible, right? Let's shift to talking about your home environment. Whether your child is home full time or needs supplemental support, I want to offer you 5 tips for creating a neurodiverse friendly home. I've talked about this in other podcast episodes in depth, and so I'm going to highlight them here for you. Sensory friendly zones, bean bags for your child, no noise canceling headphones, dim lighting or light lighting, depending on, or highlighting, I should say, depending on what your child's needs are. A calming space as well, having visuals in your home, a schedule perhaps where they know what to expect, a visual schedule. Neurodiverse kids, all kids really, but particularly neurodiverse kids, thrive in routine. And so a schedule that helps them understand what's coming next can reduce anxiety. And so having that visual in your home will go a long way. Incorporate movement breaks, jumping jack breaks, walking outside breaks, jumping on your trampoline, on a swing, going to the park. These are activities that help regulate the nervous system. Incorporate those things into your home routine. Prioritize interest based learning. Our neurodiverse children, particularly those who are autistic, have high special interests. If they are highly interested in animals, Then build lessons and learning activities around biology, around animal behavior, around nature, right? And teach your child that way. And then last but not least, as it relates to those at-home strategies, honor downtime. Give time for rest. Rest should be a part of the learning process for young people. Allow space for unstructured play as well, quiet time and processing. This is essential for all human beings. Adults at work need breaks, right? They need time for processing. They need time to mentally digest. If not, they're not very pleasant people. The same applies to our children as well. In the Transformative Parent Playbook that I wrote, I state that we are not replicating a school at home. We are defining what learning can look like. And so, again, you don't have to turn your home into a classroom. You don't have to have posters everywhere if that's not your style or your aesthetic. But just make sure that there is a space for learning and that you are incorporating learning in everything that you all do. Sometimes it's structured and sometimes it's unstructured, but learning can show up everywhere. Now, let's talk about balance. My favorite topic, one of them, because being a parent and an advocate is downright exhausting. And then add on to that a child who is incredibly hyperactive and or autistic. It is incredibly exhausting. So, how do you fight for your child while also nurturing your relationship with them and creating balance in your life? Here are a few things that I've learned. Start with boundaries, especially when it comes to advocacy time. Not every battle has to be fought, and not every battle has to be fought daily. Schedule time for advocacy and then schedule time to shut it down. It doesn't have to consume you or your family. An example of that for me, like I do advocacy. I'm public facing with the work that I do around neurodiversity and autism awareness. However, I don't feel compelled to be the end all and be all. I don't need to be at every school board meeting, at every event. I don't need to be vocal online daily. Right now, with autism being such a high topic uh, within policies right now, a lot of conversations are happening online. And quite frankly, sometimes, even as someone who is leading this work, I shut it down. I turn off my computer, I turn off my social media, and I walk away from it all because balance is key and you don't have to fight every battle. Quite frankly, being an advocate for your child and their education in the IEP meetings and regularly is more than enough for a lot of parents, right? So don't feel like you have to be the spokesperson for everything. The second thing that I learned is that you should let your child lead at home. They spend so much time being managed at school and honestly at home too as a parent that giving them autonomy in their space is so important. They deserve that autonomy. And also, you learn what their needs are when you sit and observe. For our non-verbal babies, they may not be able to verbalize it, but if you watch closely, they will tell you what they like, what they dislike, and what their needs are. And it's important to align yourself with that. And lastly, it's not the last thing you could do, but it's one of the things that I've learned that has been central to myself and my son's routine is celebrating the wins, big or small, and there really is no small win, but celebrating it all. A new milestone. Your child tied their shoes, brushed their teeth independently. It's all a win, and celebrating it and naming it out loud. They learn how to self regulate after a meltdown, honey. That is the huge win. celebrating that and celebrating it out loud and unapologetically with your child so that they understand that they did a good thing and that they're more inclined to replicate that. Let joy live in your space. You deserve that. Your child deserves that. Most importantly, connect. I tell parents that I coach this: before you correct, connect. Connection fuels everything. No one listens to someone that they don't feel a connection to or don't feel that they could trust, right? So connect with your child before you push them, before you advocate for them, connect with them. And even when you're advocating in other spaces, connect with the stakeholders, with the teachers and those who are in those positions. Find a way to make connection there as well. And so, in closing, I want you all to know that reimagining education doesn't mean recreating the perfect system. That's not the point. It means starting small, starting now, and starting with what you have in front of you at home. There's always things at home that you can use to enhance education for your child. Your home matters, your creativity matters, your connection to other parents matter. Use those tools to elevate your child's experience. Your child is worthy of an environment that affirms their brilliance because they are indeed brilliant. Next week, I'm going to close out this series by discussing what's next and how to prepare for the future of education. And so we'll discuss what to look for ahead as it relates to policy trends and how to sustain momentum when things get difficult. And so until then, I want you all to remember that you are not just your child's parent, you are their possibility builder. And the classroom you create, both at home and in your community, can be the most transformative place they ever experienced. And so until next time, take care of yourself. Bye.